Also, for those that didn't see, Henry gave a good point about like the birth thing. We should change it and start down here for a thing. He showed another graph. Basically, start here and like whatever you go, you do bad or whatever. But then when you die, like you're perfect or whatever. So that's kind of cool too. Somewhere in heaven, and our whole bodies and minds are renewed fully. Then we're actually like really with Jesus. So that's a better way. Yeah. All right. Also, I'm just wondering, honest thoughts about the first part. Was that helpful, or kind of like things you've already heard, things you've already done? If you can, honest thoughts.
I think it was a very good refresher of the scriptures and everything, so it's very useful.
As much as I want to say I've heard this all before, I'm also like very prone to forgetting or like some stuff kind of like. It is refreshing, and sometimes I do forget some things, but like sometimes it's good to go back to the basics just to remember like where you start from.
Yeah, I thought it was edifying, and I feel like we should never feel like the mentality that we've heard it before. Because it's like, I don't care how many times you heard about the fruits of the Spirit, you're going to hear about it again. Again and again before I'm like, we have to. Because the whole Bible is about remembering, because as you said, brother, like, we're so quick to forget.
True. I mean, yeah, that verse in Hebrews, right? Like, God's like saying, the Israelites are just prone to forget.
Yup.
You've seen all these things I've done and you keep forgetting. I think it's important to like talk about like the gospel and stuff, and I mean even in terms of the activity that we did, it's literally like so we can remember and see what God has done in our life. Hopefully that's encouraging for yourself to some degree. But yeah, I am so much more hyped for this second part because I genuinely think that I never heard of any of this stuff before until like this year. And then I was able to process and actually live it out and try to do things and test things. And I feel like it's changed a lot about my faith and life. Because if we're talking about sin, we're talking about our flesh and our sinful desires, and killing the flesh. Killing the flesh is literally just like half of the story. Because if that's all we are doing, we're just like, yo, I gotta kill all my desires, and all my desires are bad, I gotta like pop off on them. It's just kind of missing the full picture that God is showing in the scriptures. So the second part is satisfying the soul. Because as you'll see from some of the verses that I'm going to show up, the soul is different from the flesh. And it seems like the desires of the soul should be satisfied and not killed. But if we're only thinking like all of our desires are bad, like they're all sinful and they're bad, we're kind of missing the story. So if we look at the Psalms, I'm assuming this is David, but he's saying, my soul is in deep anguish. My soul is full of troubles and my life draws near to Sheol. The soul has these deep feelings, like our actual, like our emotions, our feelings, the inner workings of our self. And then God says, I will satisfy the weary soul. And every languishing soul I will replenish. So it's not saying it's like something bad that we're supposed to kill, but like God really says, I'm going to satisfy your soul. If you look at some of these verses, these are popular songs, right? As the deer pants for the streams of water, so my soul pants for you, my God. My soul thirsts for God, for the living God. I wait for the Lord, my soul waits, and in his word I hope. My soul waits for the Lord more than watchmen for the morning. Then my soul will rejoice in the Lord, exulting in his salvation. So, yeah, our souls seem like they desire God, whereas our flesh is like desiring of sin. And if we're like waiting for the Lord, when our soul wait on God, like it can be satisfied in the flesh. So here's like a good verse that mentions the flesh and the soul, like really differentiated. First Peter says, abstain from fleshly lusts, which wage war against the soul. So that's like a clear, like in your face, like yes, there's these two things in us. But if we're only thinking all of that is bad, then yeah, we're missing something. And these same quotes from earlier today, from C.S. Lewis, if I find in myself a desire which no experience in this world can satisfy, the most probable explanation is that I was made for another world. And I'm saying, Augustine, you have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our hearts are restless until they rest in you. Which I think for his hearts and soul could be similar in that case. And Ruth Haley Barton, this is like a really good author if you want to look into more of this stuff. So I just mentioned you to write her name down. But she describes the soul as this. When I refer to the soul, I'm talking about the part of you that is most real. This is the you that exists beyond any role you play, any job you perform, any relationship that seems to define you, or any notoriety or success you may achieve. It is the part of you that longs for more of God than you have right now. And the part that may, even now, be aware of missing God amid the challenges of life and ministry. That's so powerful. Like, our soul desires God, and even if we don't even notice it yet, like our soul is longing for something more that this world can't satisfy. And if we're going to like certain sins and stuff, like our soul is gonna be like, it's not gonna be healthy. It's gonna be like, it's like you're feeding yourself like garbage, like we did for lunch. We're not gonna be like shit, right? The soul is the same. The soul is looking for something. But if we're not aware of what it's looking for, and we're not aware of our soul in the first place, then how can we take care of our soul? Ruth Haley Barton again. I have become convinced that the more that we are looking for is the transformation of our souls in the presence of God. That's so powerful, dude. Like that more that we are looking for in this life is the transformation of our souls in the presence of God, when we're being with God. If we flip this, I was talking about like the desires for God, that loving union that really transforms our whole being. That is what like our souls are looking for. Okay. Yeah, so talked about the soul and what it is, but how do we actually get in touch with our soul? I love this analogy. I heard it at a conference in Florida, which is, I think it's a dope analogy. But pretty much, if you think about like you going into the woods, if you want to look at some birds, you want to look at some wildlife, you wouldn't go into the forest making a bunch of noise, screaming, like breaking like twigs, like rummaging through the leaves really loudly, because that'll scare away all the animals, right? Think of like the deers. If you see like, if you do like a sudden movement, they just like start running, right? So what hunters do, they're like, they have to be quiet. They have to be like, they have to be ready. They have to be waiting for who knows how long before they finally see the animal that they're looking for. And if they're impatient, if they give up too early, they're not gonna see an animal. If they get impatient in the sense like, oh, like they see the animal and then they want to quickly like, I don't know, do whatever with it, like they want to like, kill it, but they go too early and the animal's not close enough, then it's gonna run away or something, or they're not gonna be able to aim and be in the right position. So they have to be patient, they have to be waiting. It's the same with us and our souls. If we want to take care of our soul, if we want to like get in touch with our soul deep down, we need to be able to think of it like a wild animal, really. Something that we're gonna have to be waiting patiently for. We're gonna be quiet. to still ourselves, to slow down, especially in a world that's very busy. We're always being like, oh, I'm too tired, I have all this stuff to do. We're gonna have to somehow find space in our life, space and time for us to be able to sit with our souls and listen to our souls. So, yeah, one thing that we can do is literally just sitting in silence with nothing, and just trying to listen to our soul, trying to listen to what God has to say to us. Because, also retailing burden, in solitude we are rescued from relentless human striving to solve the challenges of ministry through intellectual achievements and hard work, so that we can experience the life of the Spirit, guiding toward that true way that lies between one polarity and another. In silence, we give up control and allow God to be God in our life, rather than being a thought in our head or an illustration in a sermon. I love it. This is guys insane. But yeah, if we were to literally sit down and, I mean, think about it, like if I was to sit down and do absolutely nothing, I'm not praying, I'm not reading anything, I'm not thinking about anything, usually there'll be thoughts of like, damn, I'm just wasting time. Or like, I could be doing something. Especially if I know there's like a lot of leaders in this room. Think about like you're leading for your fellowships, your church or whatever. We're like, oh, I have to do all these tasks. I don't have time to like just sit and do nothing. But when we do sit and do nothing, we realize all the striving that we have, all the things that we hold on to act like this is my identity. Like if I'm not serving, if I'm not doing things, like who am I? And I think sitting in silence and solitude reveals all those like truths about yourselves, like the beliefs about yourselves that need to be broken down for you to truly listen to your soul and see what God's doing. I think that's all my slides. The rest will just be a bit of talking. So yeah, what I think would be really cool after one of our activities is to sit quietly and to think about what does my soul desire. Because if we're thinking about desires, we're thinking about like fleshly desires, we have to kill them, but the soul has desires too. But if we think about some of the desires that we have, whatever comes to mind, and then we try to dig deeper at what is underneath it, we should be able to find that it reflects and points towards God. But we need to be sitting quietly to know what those desires are, and to be able to dig deeper into like what is beneath those desires. So when we're sitting quietly, we're going to name our deepest longings and desires before Christ. And then at the deepest level, it should point towards God. This is why Jesus often asks people, like, what do you want? You've probably like read that a few times in the scriptures. People come up to him and be like, yo, can you heal my leg or whatever? Can you do this thing? And then he's like, yeah, like what do you want? Or like, what are you looking for? Which sometimes, yeah, it's like, yeah, I just want I want to like stop having leprosy. That's what I want. And other times, like they had to, like it revealed more about their deeper desires. But yeah, Jesus he always wanted to dig deeper with people. He knew that those shallow desires wasn't everything, and that there was those deeper longings that we all have. So you could write this down on your page. Like, what is your deepest longing before God? And then once you find that thing, you're going to ask the next question, which is, what is the desire beneath that? And then you're going to ask that another time. So pretty much you're going to be asking, like, why? Like, why do I have this desire? And why do I have that desire? Why do I have that desire? And then at the deepest level, whatever it is, yeah, it should be pointing towards God. So it's okay if your shallow desire that you have is like simple, or that it will never be fulfilled. The goal with the practice, with this activity, that I don't think you should just do it now. I you should do it like continually, as much as you can in the coming weeks and the coming months. But yeah, the goal is to invite God into our soul's desires, to meet Him at that level. And once we do so, we want to restructure our life around that desire. Because if you think about Genesis, we are created in God's image. And so from the beginning, our desires, like our soul, it should be like a holy thing. It should have like a holy desire. So if we were to dig deep enough, because we were born, or because we were created in the image of God, yeah, our desire at the deepest level should point towards God. And so if you can find that desire and you restructure your life around that, you're going to take care of your soul in a healthy way instead of like ignoring it or suppressing it or killing it. And I think from that, God is better able to use us in His mission, which we're talking about today, the rock help. Oh, another cool point. If you think about your calendar or your days, this is one way to reflect on your desires. But if you look at your calendar and your schedule, it kind of shows your soul, because it shows what you value. The time that you spend, if you look at it, in some way, to some degree, it probably shows the desires that you have. And so when you're sitting with God, ask yourself, like, what's stirring in you? What longing is bubbling up? And then once you find that, how can you rearrange your life to explore and live into that more? But before we do that, how much time do we have? Dang, we don't have much time. I want to share a story so that you can get a picture of what it looks like to take care of, or to identify your desires. I was in Florida for a church planting conference like a few months ago. And I was at a workshop that talked about very similar things to this. And the guy was, he was telling me, like, what is your deepest longing? And he was sharing all these things, and I was getting like interested because I was like, I never heard about anybody talking about this before. And then he gave us time to like think about what our desires was, and I knew what came to mind. And I was like, okay, I know what my desire is, because I feel like for a long time all I've been doing has been working on like this ministry Barak Project. I just feel so called by God to do that. And I was like, yo, that's my desire. My desire is to like reach people and to like literally like do whatever I can to like serve and love others. And then the guy was like, hey, so like, that's cool. So what's your actual desire? And I'm like, I'm standing there in the back of the room, and I'm just like, I was thinking about it, and I think like something came to mind. I knew what I actually desired, but I didn't want to really say it because it was like, it's kind of embarrassing. Because I was like, what? I think the desire that I said was pretty cool, you know? And it seemed like that was my desire too, because I was so involved with different ministry stuff. You guys probably would experience the same. You're a part of like your fellowships and you're leading. All your time is focused on like doing things that you're like, yeah, my desire is of course serving and doing this stuff. But the guy was like, yeah, so what is your actual desire? And I'm like, I knew it came to mind, and my desire was literally to slow down, to stop doing ministry stuff, and spend time with the girl that I really like, and just have fun with my girlfriend. That was literally my desire. And speaking that out loud was like crazy, because I was like, but man, there's no way that desire can be like satisfied or filled, because I feel like I have so much like responsibility to like do all these things for God. Like I don't have time for her, even though I really, really want that. And then the guy was like, hey, like why not? why can't you like step into that and see what God's doing? Because if we look at the deeper desire behind that, I would say it's like that desire for intimacy and love from God, right? Yeah, he was like, yeah, like why can't you have fun? Or why can't you enjoy life? Or why can't you like spend time with a girlfriend? And in my mind, I'm really like, because the Jesus that I follow is like an Asian Jesus. And he like does not want me to have fun. He just wants me to work hard, grind. He doesn't want me to have fun. He wants me to like hop off. And he doesn't care about how I feel and yeah, like enjoyment in life. And then he was like, he shared more. He was like, yo, yeah, that is not the right Jesus, bro. Because if you look in scripture, if you look at who Jesus is, you find that he hung out with sinners and drunkards and like he just partied a lot. So how can a guy like that not be fun? Or how can he not be having fun if he was doing things like that? And then he gave another example, like Jesus also spent time with children and the children loved him. Like children don't hang around people that aren't fun, right? So it's like, Jesus had to have been a fun guy. There's no way that he couldn't have been, so there's no way that you can't lean more into that desire and see what God's doing there. Because you have that desire, right? It might not be bad as you initially thought, but if you step into that and see like what God's doing, if you were to like still your soul and see and rest in what he's saying to you through that desire, then maybe like that's where you need to be. So I came back from Florida and I was thinking about that, and that was like crazy to me because like there's no way that's possible. There's no way that what God would want me to do right now is to do less work for God and spend more time doing fun things with like friends, like playing Magic the Gathering with some of these guys, or like spending time with my girlfriend, which I think that was like my number one heart's desire. But I leaned into that, and what I found was something so cool that, I mean, I never really dated much at all before this girl, so I didn't know anything about dating. But what I found is that my relationship with her, if I lean into that more, and I'm leading out of that, the love that we can experience and that I experience, I can then go out from that relationship and out towards other people. But if I wasn't like in that relationship, I wouldn't have as much love to give. But also if you're single, it means maybe that desire is to like spend time with friends that can pour that love into you, or spend that time with God. My example is just like what it is. So yeah, we're almost out of time. But one last thing I want to share, because I think it's so cool, because I was really doubting about this stuff that these people are talking about. It just seems like when we are serving God and stuff, we just don't have time for some things. But if we were to slow down and restructure our life around that desire, if it is like having fun for you, maybe, you'll see that your soul really needs it. You'll be so much more healthy, and you'll be able to serve and lead better, even though you're spending less time serving and leading, because you're doing all these other fun things that you thought you couldn't do. So for example, this week, I was prepping for this retreat, and I was like super, super busy, because I was like, I had work and all these other things to do as well. But I was thinking, I'm literally talking about taking care of my soul, and if I don't live it out, if I don't live out the things I'm going to say, then like, what's the point, right? So, in my mind, I was thinking, I have no time to spend with my girlfriend this week, because I have to prep for these workshops. But I was like, screw it, man. I'm going to trust that God is doing something here, and that he's speaking to me through my soul, and that longing, that desire is there's like something good there. So I messaged her and I told her, yeah, we should hang out Friday, which was literally yesterday. And we hung out like the whole night, where pretty much we went for dinner. It was fun, and then we were chilling at a cafe place where we could work. Where I worked on Rob Hell, and she gave me a bunch of ideas. So what's kind of crazy is that a lot of stuff that I talked about was like with her. So if I didn't hang out with her, if I was like, oh, I'm too busy, I don't like, I'm gonna ignore and repress what my soul is saying, then I wouldn't have been able to come up here and say the things that I did today. So that was like a super like in your face example of like what it can look like, even though you might doubt like why should we care for our soul. But that's it. The activity that I want you to do was literally like what is like that, asking yourself what that deepest longing is for you, and like sitting with that. We don't have much time. We have 10 minutes left. And I also want to have some time where you could share those thoughts or those confessions with other people. So how about we take 10 minutes, the rest of our workshop time, you can just sit solo, and then maybe during like the meal time later, you can share with people what you were like processing and what you were thinking. But yeah, any questions, any thoughts? Hopefully that kind of made sense. I don't think like my example for the longing will relate to everybody, but I hope that it shows like, yeah, if you lean into what God's doing there, it could be really cool.
Amen.
So you can just chill. You can just like sit quietly. I would say like, don't write anything down until the end of the 10 minutes. Just like sit with God quietly, close your eyes or whatever, and go around in this the building or whatever, and just like sit with God and see what comes up. Yeah.